Hey guys, it's Austin with Out Jeeping. In today's video, I'm going to be showing how to replace front shocks in a Jeep Cherokee. Now the brand I went with today is AC Delco. I'll post a link in the description below on where you can find them. So, let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start off doing one side at a time. I'm going to start with breaking these lugs free. Alright, now we can start and lift up the front axle.
Do I get an AR-15 or an AK?
Alright, so with the wheel off, you can see the shock is right here behind the coil spring. And to take the old one out, basically we got two 13mm bolts on the top, and then we got a 15mm on the top, which you actually have to take off the engine bay. So I'm going to start off with the bottom down here. Basically, they're most likely going to snap off if you live in the rust belt. So I'm just going to use an impact and then a wrench on the top, and then we should get those out. Surprisingly, that came off. Alright, so now to remove this from the axle, take a screwdriver, pry it up here. You can pull it out like that. Now, before we can remove this entirely, we have to get it from the top side, so let's go to the engine bay. Alright, so in the engine bay on the driver's side, for the driver's side shock, we have the nut that's right under the brake booster here, and it's going to be a 15mm. Now you can't really use a ratchet unless you have one that fits right underneath this area, and it would really help if you have a ratchet wrench, but I just got a standard 15mm, so I'm going to turn it like this. I already broke it free, but if it doesn't break free, it spins the whole shock. You might have to hold it from underneath or put some sort of vice grips to hold it in place so that way it won't turn anymore. But it doesn't seem to be spinning for me. I put a little penetrating fluid on the threads and it seems to be working fine. Now the shock dropped out. Alright, so when installing our new shock, we can take one metal spacer, put it down there, and then take a bushing. You want to make sure that the little ridge side is facing up from the bottom part. Then we can stick this through the Jeep, and then from the top side we will use the other side of the bushing with the ridge downward, and then put another washer and then put the nut on. So with that in place, I'm going to set this down on the axle, and then they got this wire that's around there, and they can take a wire cutter, snip it, and then it'll start to rise up, and then you aim it towards the hole. Then you can cut off the rest of the wire. Now I'd recommend using some new bolts on this. It does not come with the shock, so you have to buy it separate. I basically just using 5/16 bolts. And then we can take our nut and feed it on the bottom. Alright, so with those two tightened down, we can go and put the nut in the engine bay on the top side and tighten it down. Alright, so now we can put our bushing on, put our retainer in, and then our nut. Now with this new size, it's actually going to be a 9/16 instead of a 15mm. And then basically we want to tighten this up so that the rubber bushing starts to bulge out a little bit. We don't want to smush it necessarily, but we want to make sure it has good compression. That way it won't loosen up. Alright, so that has a little bit of bulge, and that's where I'm going to tighten it up to. Now, with these type of shocks, they actually came with this little retainer to help prevent the nut from backing off. I've actually never seen this in a kit, and it's actually kind of cool. So basically, we're just going to fit this on top. So basically, you want to take this and push it down. It might be a little bit tricky. So now we can repeat the process on the passenger side. I'm not going to show most of that because it's basically the same exact thing, except for the top shock mount is actually going to be in a better location, which is just right behind the coolant reservoir. So on the passenger side here, we can just use a 15 millimeter. I don't have a deep socket 15 millimeters, so I'm going to have to wait for it to work. And use an impact, and we can basically get this. Pull it from underneath. And pull it off. Alright, so once we get our shocks on, the last thing we ought to do is put the tire back on. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's video. As you can see, it was pretty easy to do. So basically anyone with any mechanical experience can probably get this done. Now I actually won't recommend AC Delco because it actually is an inch shorter than the OEM shocks that came on the Jeep, which I don't know why they did that, but it shouldn't be a problem if you're, daily driving your Jeep and, not off-roading with a stock suspension at all, because it won't drop as far as it would be if you had the OEM shocks on there. So yeah, just another thing to consider. So yeah, probably go with a different brand. So if you find this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe to the Out Jeeping YouTube channel to help keep these videos coming. And as always, make sure to comment below and I'll be happy to answer any questions. So until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.